Greetings and thanks for joining us on Talk of the Town. I'm Jane Jude. We're in the midst of a historic mayoral election with an unprecedented number of candidates and unprecedented interest from the community. Joining us today is one of the candidates, Tom Cruise. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Jane. It's nice to be here again.
Well, we're going to work this just kind of in a little conversation. The first half, we'll talk about you personally, your experience and background, and the second segment, we'll talk about issues. So start from the beginning. You're an architect and have a family here. Just talk.
Okay. I've been on the island for nearly 25 years, and I'm an architect, and I've been practicing architecture since I've been here. I have a small design firm, a small businessman. And my wife and I live here on the island. The kids and grandchildren live in the area here, so we've got a family that's captured the low country for forever.
But you came from Colorado. You worked in Aspen, another place a lot of people would like to be in.
Well, I did, and it was a great place. I loved the Rocky Mountains and lived there for 11 years before I moved here. And there's an interesting connection between the resort community of Aspen and Hilton Head Island. Some of the people that worked with Charles Fraser moved out there and started doing some work. I got to know them, and so it created somewhat of a connection for Hilton Head Island. But it was kind of a grounding thing for me to understand a resort community, and I grew to love that. And I'm a small town guy, and this is a small town to me, and I love it here.
So Charles Fraser and the Sea Pines Group recruited you directly from Aspen to come here, or how'd that happen?
I wasn't recruited. Interestingly, I didn't know a soul here. I was talking to a fraternity, a friend who had a fraternity brother here, and in search of a place to go during an economic downturn in the mid-'80s, I decided it was time to move back to the East Coast and get to my roots of my love of sailing. And so I had heard about Hilton Head Island, knew about Charles Fraser, and I thought that would be a great opportunity. So with one phone call, I was invited to come visit the island, and I met and started working with Doug Corcoran, a great architect, one of the earliest architects, found a home. And Doug immediately got me involved in the town activities, and I went to work first on a state committee that Bill Cork set me up for, and then I started a series of working with the town on committees and boards and commissions, and today I'm second-term planning commissioner. I'm the chairman of the Planning Commission's Comprehensive Plan Committee, which is really a wonderful insight to the history and current and future needs of the island.
And y'all just came out with a revised plan.
We did, and it's a 20-year vision for the island, and we presented it to the town council recently, and they adopted that. Now, we don't stop with that. We're still working on that plan. We have more elements to do, and currently our committee is working on the convergence of what was the recommendations of some of the strongest recommendations of the comprehensive plan, as well as the mayor's vision task force report.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of overlap between those two committees. I mean, they're both looking at the future. What's the difference between the two?
Well, I think that the difference is that the comprehensive plan is operated under guidelines set by the state. It's enabling legislature so that we can have a land management ordinance. And it has specific goals and needs, and the format has to follow state procedure. The local effort, the Vision Task Force effort, was really an effort to kind of springboard from the comprehensive plan with the recognition that we need to move forward with a lot of initiatives. So I think the goal here is to try to find some directed strategic goals that are of the community now that we can move forward with now in the next year or two, understanding that all of this comes from a view of the larger, broader future into perhaps 20 years from now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, some of the other projects you've worked on, I'm fascinated with the Aldbrass project. Tell folks about that.
That's a fascinating project. I have had the good fortune for over 20 years to work at Aldbrass to help restore, rebuild, and build what has never been built that Frank Lloyd Wright designed starting in 1939.
And tell people where that is.
It's about an hour north of here, just outside of Yemassee, South Carolina, and it's a plantation with residential buildings and farm buildings and scattered other buildings that Wright designed. And it was intended to be the most efficient kind of working plantation in the South unlike anything that the South had ever seen, and it certainly is.
Wow. So what's the state of the buildings now?
We've done almost everything that Wright intended. The last major project is what's referred to as the guest house, which is an extension of the residential property. It's a two-story, very complex structure with an awful lot of intrigue and details that have not been done elsewhere on the property. So we hope to get that started in the next 2 or 3 years, and it's a time-consuming process. I expect that that's going to be anywhere from 3 or 4 years of construction to perhaps a total of 5 years from the time we start on the drawing board until it's completed. But that will complete All Brass Plantation as Wright had envisioned.
Will it be open for tours? Isn't it limited times they have tours of it?
It is open for tours. In fact, one of the agreements that the current owner, Joel Silver, made with the county, Beaufort County Open Land Trust, is that it would be available for some public tours, and he's been very accommodating for that. The schedule is every other year in the odd years, first weekend in November. So not this year, but next November, the first weekend in November, Saturday and Sunday, there will be Beaufort County Open Land Trust, and this is a fundraising event. And it's limited to 2 days at 700 people per day, and it's usually a sellout months before. And people come from international destinations to come and visit.
Fascinating. Well, I'll have to put that on my calendar. Maybe you can get me in.
I'll give it a try.
All right. So the other things you love about the area are sailing. You have a boat?
Well, we did. I've been a sailor all my life, and my wife and I had a sailboat that we kept in Harbor Town, and I loved it. Sailing wasn't quite as much of a passion for my wife, who grew up in Pennsylvania, nowhere near sailing. So we don't have a sailboat now. I sail with other people. I love offshore sailing and do a lot of that. That's a real passion for me. Flying, sailing, I've done an awful lot of things that are outdoor things and exciting for me.
Well, Miss Patty, you should tell you, your wife Patty is a realtor on the island.
Yes.
Been here and worked for many, many years doing that. So
yes.
So she's connected there too.
Yes, and we've been able to travel a lot, and that's been a pleasure. We traveled some by sailboat, and now we travel with a motor coach, and that's fun when we have the time to go do that. We've been all the way of the western states. We've been to Toronto. We've been to Key West with our motor coach. And
all the while getting ideas for making Hilton Head Island better, right?
Always looking, always looking. In fact, we were recently in Florida, and I visited a small town that went through a revitalization effort on the waterfront. I took lots of pictures and took a lot of time to note what they had been doing, because it's very applicable to some of the challenges that we have here today.
Well, when you're not volunteering for the town or building All Brass or building buildings around here, what other groups do you belong to? What other things do you like to do?
Well, I've been on the other side of the fence of things that I've done with the town for over the years has been my work with the different gated communities as an architect and on ARBs, Architectural Review Boards. I've done a lot of that. I'm a past Commodore of the Yacht Club of Hilton Head Island. I've helped in the past with the Boys and Girls Club and just a host of things. This community is just chock full of opportunities to do wonderful things.
All you have to do is look around, and there's a need, and there's also some engaging people involved in meeting it. So that's a good thing, and I'm glad you've availed yourself of those. When we come back, we're going to talk about some issues and where you stand on those and how you'd like to drive the island forward. Please stay with us with Tom Cruise on the airport and many other issues.